Welkom terug op GROOTplaas. Ons gas saam met ons vanoggend Olivia Sievert. Sy is van die Cheetah Conservation Project en ons gesels 'n bietjie oor die hervestiging van jagluiperds uit Suid-Afrika na Zambië. Olivia, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So we heard the exciting news that the cheetahs are being relocated to Zambia from South Africa. Is this the first time cheetahs have been moved from South Africa specifically to Zambia?
So this is actually the second time. Previously, a few years ago, 5 cheetah were moved to a small fenced reserve in Zambia. So what's really exciting about this project, it's the first time that we're reintroducing into a large open system in Zambia.
So why is this relocation so important?
Well, in South Africa, we have a growing cheetah population within our fenced reserves. It's one of the only growing populations in the world. Otherwise, cheetah are massively declining. They are threatened with extinction as a result. And within our fenced reserves, we're starting to see that we're slowly reaching a capacity here in South Africa. So we essentially have some excess animals that we can be using to reintroduce into other areas to just reestablish populations into protected areas and really just try to conserve the species as a whole.
So, Olivia, cheetahs have been absent in this ecosystem for almost 30 years now. What's changed to make it a little bit more suitable for their return now?
Well, there's been a tremendous amount of effort on the ground by a lot of the partners and the Department of National Parks and Wildlife in Zambia. And the system is comprising quite a few national parks, but then also what they call game management areas, where it's essentially a multi-use landscape. So there's been a lot of anti-poaching efforts, but then there's also been a lot of community upliftment projects within the game management areas that have really started to see like a huge turnaround in wildlife. So we've seen the numbers of everything else improve, but cheetah just can't get back there on their own. So we do need to have some form of human intervention in order to see the species return.
So the first 6 cheetahs will come from South Africa's managed meta population. How were these animals specifically selected?
So we have about 70 reserves in our managed meta population. Those are both private reserves and government reserves, whether they be national or provincial. And we actually hold essentially a database of every single cheetah that's on these reserves and every single cheetah that was ever been on these reserves. So we're able to start to look at their genetics, who they're related to, and then we start to hand select individuals. Of course, going into a really big open system where there are communities, we want to make sure that they aren't too used to people, they're not too comfortable with people. We also need to make sure that they're used to the other large carnivores. So we had to select off of areas where there's lions, leopards, spotted hyenas, but then we also want to make sure that they're not related. So there's a lot of thought that goes into the process, but we do it through our large databases.
So is this one of the reasons why Zambia was chosen for the specific project? And are there any other African countries that you might be looking into relocating these cheetahs at a later stage?
So Zambia was selected because of this big landscape that has gone under such a tremendous restoration process over the last 20 years. It's a perfect landscape to try to reintroduce cheetah into. And if we can, you're looking at about 7 million hectares of protected area for cheetah. So you can essentially create a self-sustaining population like we have in our Kruger National Park, which is so important for the conservation of the species. We are doing similar work in other countries. We work very closely with partners in Mozambique, and we're working very closely with partners in Malawi as well.
So planning for this reintroduction has been coming for almost a decade. What were the biggest challenges that you had to overcome before reaching this specific stage?
Well, the partners on the ground have certainly been working for over a decade. We have joined about 3 years ago when they started developing the actual reintroduction plan, because that's where our skills and expertise come in. It was quite a big undertaking with a lot of partners. It's actually been endorsed by the IUCN Cat Specialist Group, which is really exciting. And really the challenges came in when it comes to the logistics on the ground. Moving 6 cheetah is not an easy nor inexpensive endeavor. So that was really the challenges there, with sourcing aircraft, working with governments to get permits. Obviously, cheetah are CITES listed species, so they're protected by international trade regulations. So there's a lot of permitting and stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that we we are able to legally take these cheetah out of the country.
So local communities obviously play a very big part in any kind of program like this. How are they being involved, and what measures are in place to minimize the human-cheetah conflict?
So a lot of work has gone into working with the communities. There's about 5,000 people who live in this landscape. Now, of course, it is 7 million hectares, so that's quite a low human population density, but they are there. And they are subsistence farmers mainly, and we would see the potential for conflict with some of the goat farming. So there is a need to work with the communities, ensure that they do have buy-in to the project, and that took many years, a lot of work that our partners on the ground did. And it's both work within the communities with the chiefs, but also within the schools, and a lot of education that had to go in order to get the buy-in from the communities. So that buy-in is there, which is fantastic, but it was not an easy undertaking. They are in the process of still implementing a lot of community projects, including fencing for the individuals that do have livestock.
Well, Olivia, we can't wait to be back with you. We're just going to a quick ad break. Dis Olivia Sievert, sy is van die Cheetah Conservation Project, en ons praat 'n bietjie oor die hervestiging van jagluiperds vanaf Suid-Afrika na Zambië. Ons is terug op Grootplaas net hierna. Welkom terug op Grootplaas. Ons gas saam met ons vanoggend Olivia Sievert from the Cheetah Conservation Project. En ons praat 'n bietjie oor jagluiperds wat gehervestig word vanaf Suid-Afrika na Zambië. So Olivia, the big thing obviously is you're doing a soft release now in enclosures before actually releasing these cheetahs into the wild. Can you explain how this process is going to work and why this is a crucial step?
Yeah, so this is one of the most exciting things about this project. While reintroductions into open systems have happened in the past, they haven't been extremely successful. And as we know, cheetah move really big distances, but they also really depend on knowing that there's other individuals within those systems. And to do that, they really depend on scent marking trees, or what we call communication hubs. So what we're essentially trying to do differently with this open system reintroduction is force a small area where the cheetah can be, so they can start to set up those communication hubs. The idea being that we're kind of mimicking some of the smaller fenced reserves in South Africa that have cheetah. So the smallest reserve we work with is about 2,000 hectares. So we've created a 2,000 hectare sanctuary within one of the national parks, North Luangwa National Park. And the idea is that from the bomas, so when the cheetah first arrive into Zambia, they do need some time to acclimatize and just settle in after such a long relocation and sedation. So we have just a 50 by 100 meter boma that they get initially released into. They'll be in that for a few weeks, each one in their own individual boma, and then from there they get released into this 2,000 hectare sanctuary, where we hope to keep them for anywhere from 6 months to a year. The idea is to really get them used to the area, setting up and establishing those communication hubs, hopefully having a little bit of breeding happening. If females breed and raise cubs successfully, they tend to stay within that area. So that's really what we're trying to do, is although this is this massive open system that actually connects all the way down to Zimbabwe and across to Malawi, if they move too far, 6 cheetah or 12 cheetah, which is the ultimate goal in this system, the density is really going to be too low for them to find each other and for successful mating and therefore population establishment to happen. So we're really trying to restrict those movements initially and create a core area of cheetah activity that when we supplement with more cheetah next year, they will settle into that area.
So you're also using a bunch of technology, specifically the cheetah will be monitored with satellite tracking after their release. What kind of data will researchers be collecting, and how will this help ensure the success of this project?
So we're going to be looking at everything from what they're eating, how often they're eating, what their movements are. Obviously, the satellite collars help with that, but we're also going to have pretty much 24/7 monitoring within the first year. Where vehicles aren't able to access, we do have aerial-based monitoring available, but the vehicles themselves are fully kitted for the staff to be able to be out pretty much 24/7 without even hitting a road. So these are well-trained field officers that are able to go off-road and camping for days on end to follow these cheetah. We'll also be collecting a lot of information just on if they're interacting with each other and really if they are creating these communication hubs and interacting with these communication hubs. So there's a lot of data to be gathered. There's a lot to learn. As we said, cheetah haven't been in the system for 30 years, so we're not 100% sure how this is going to go. A lot of thought and planning has gone in for it to be a success, but we can never guarantee what the animals are going to do. They are wild. So the more information we can gather, the better we'll be able to adapt our methodologies as we move forward with the project.
So let's end it off with, if this reintroduction is successful, which I hope it will be, what impact could this have not only on Zambia's wildlife, but also on future cheetah conservation projects around Africa?
It could have a huge impact. So as I said, cheetah are threatened with extinction. And one of the really big threats is they actually are in very few protected areas. So of the cheetah that are remaining, the vast majority are actually on communal land. And so they come into a lot of conflict with farmers. So what we're really looking for is to establish more populations within these suitable protected areas where they once were, but obviously were completely wiped out. And now that we're seeing restoration happen, we can bring them back. If we could establish cheetah in this area, we're looking at essentially increasing their protected area range by about 25% in Southern Africa. So it's massive. This would also be one of the few self-sustaining populations in Southern Africa if we could get it to that level. But we're talking many years and really hundreds of cheetahs. So we have a long way to go. This is the very beginning steps, but it's very exciting and we're very, very hopeful.
Olivia, thank you so much for your time. We really enjoyed chatting to you. This is Olivia Sievert. Sy is van die Cheetah Conservation Project oor die hervestiging van jagluiperde vanaf Suid-Afrika na Zambië. Dis al wat vir ons tyd het vir GROOTplaas. Ons hoop jy het geniet soveel soos wat ons het en dan kyk ons weer môreoggend.